Hello, everyone. This is Brother Benson Media. Tonight, we have again two gentlemen that we are going to discuss issues that is affecting our country right now. And let me give this opportunity to my panelists to say a word of hi to our viewers. May I start with Mweshebewa?
Well, I told you the last time I was here that you don't have to refer to me as Mheshimiwa because what I do is to serve. So Mtumishi would be more appropriate.
Okay.
It's always a joy to connect with you on this platform because I've seen the impact it has on those who follow what you do here. It's enlightening, it's informative, and the insights that are given here, I wish those who implement policies in Kenya and Africa would take them seriously because then we would move forward. My name is Mudiora Kariara, a former presidential running mate, the party leader of the Great Nationhood Party of Kenya, an active citizen, and I'm happy to be here today.
Thank you so much, Mtumishi. Let me say that. Makobura, is it time to say hi to our viewers?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to take this opportunity to say hi to everyone who is watching and everyone who will be watching later. I'm glad to be in this show together with Mtumishi. Thank you.
Usizie uzushi wewe.
Okay, thank you so much. And today is quite a lot because like right now our country is sinking in water. We have floods everywhere, especially in the capital city. We'll dive into that too. We also have doctors who are still on strike, and the majority of people who are suffering are the Kenyans. Again, we also want to dive in on what is the best way that we can, especially as people, the awareness that we have, especially when it comes to disasters and emergency, how can we handle them? So before we go into the main discussion, let me take this opportunity and maybe ask my friend. We want to just talk about the upgrading of our military system. As you know, last week, a day like this, we lost the general. And in the public domain, so many things have been said, which we are still waiting for investigation to know actually what happened. But on the other side, we want to give it another insight and look at our military aircrafts. Are they up to date? So that is something that maybe I would pose it to you, my panelist, and maybe share a view on it. So, Mtumishi, are our aircrafts military, are they up to date, especially the police aircraft and the military aircrafts?
The answer to that is no, because I'll take you back to a time when Kenya was faced with a threat from terrorism, when Garissa University was attacked and our security agents needed to be flown to contain that situation in Garissa. Garissa is not very far from Nairobi. So, yes, there are alternatives, but then the fastest means to get these security agents to Garissa was by air. But then the only plane that could have flown these security agents from Nairobi to Garissa was away with a senior government officer, not on official duty, but he was on vacation. So, starting from deployment to the kind of equipment we have, there is a problem. Now, the kind of aircrafts we have, take for instance the one with which the CDF went down with, it's aged. Now, you can imagine this is the senior most military officer. Actually, call him number two in Kenya's chain of command because you have the chief, the the commander in chief of the defense forces, and then we have chief of defense forces. So he should have at his disposal the latest aircraft that uses the latest technology. But right now, we know that the plane that went down and thereby claiming his life was an aged aircraft, one that developed, call it technical hitches during that trip. And as a result, we lost the chief of defense forces. So if we are to use just that one metric, I can unequivocally state here that our aircrafts are not up to date. They are not up to scratch. They are aged, they are not well maintained, and besides that, they are overused. I will explain to you, if you give me the opportunity, about how these aircrafts are used. We have
Yes.
cabinet secretaries and other senior government officers who, from time to time, have to crisscross the country. And these days, I think, due to impunity, they prefer to fly rather than use our roads. Well, I would understand that maybe they want to save time and get a lot done. But then, given our capacity, you find a plane that is supposed to do a limited number of hours in a week does almost thrice that which that plane is supposed to do. So, as a result, that plane will not have enough time to be serviced. And then, of course, as a result of the corruption we have in Kenya, the components that are used to service these planes sometimes are substandard, sometimes they're not procured on time, and as expected, some of these components are stretched beyond their useful life. So there is dire need for action to be taken to ensure that the kind of equipment we have is up to the task. So far, we have been tested and we have failed.
Okay, Marco Bura, what is your take on our military aircrafts and police?
Okay, my opinion is it is true that the aircraft that we are using in Kenya, especially the ones that are being used by the forces, that is the army, I mean the KDF and the police, they are not up to date. For example, if you, I was reading an article that was speaking more about the aircraft that crashed, the helicopter that crashed. From the information I was getting is that this kind of aircraft was made in 1980, and this kind of aircraft was used in those years, 1980, those times that there were wars in Vietnam. That's a serious thing. As a country, we have to be worried, especially about our security as a people. If we are still using aircrafts which were used in 1980, then we as Kenyans we have a reason to get worried about our security. And that also tells you how serious it is now that the CDF, a whole CDF was using this kind of aircraft. What if now the junior officers, which kind of aircrafts are they using? If a whole senior CDF would use the same, then that tells you that it is true we don't have any modern aircraft in the country. Again, there was this notion also that the aircraft that the president is using, it is also very old. It was used by Moi. Moi died. It was used by Kibaki. This is a serious thing, you know. Aircrafts that are being used by official head of state, they should be up to date. Technology has gone high. There is a high AI. Now in America, we're being told that there are so many vehicles that drive themselves.
Mhm.
This kind of technology should be imported to Kenya. And I'm quite sure that if we had a technology like this, or if we had a modern aircraft, the kind of crash that caused the death of more than eight KDF officers would not have happened. If we had a technology, a latest or a modern kind of aircraft, we would not have lost very bright and serious KDF officers. So this is a role of the government. Of course, the people of Kenya are paying tax, and a lot. The government is collecting a lot of money from the people of Kenya. It is up to the government to ensure that it protects the lives of the people who are defending us, that is the KDF and the police, by ensuring that they give them enough equipments which are up to date, uh, and also looking also those that are up to date, and those which are going to protect the life of the people. That's my opinion.
Okay, let me ask you, all of you, because you remember very well that the day when the Interior Cabinet, by then they were called Interior Minister, the late George Saitoti and the late Orua Jode, the same fate fell them using the same police aircraft. Does it mean that as a country, we usually don't learn from experience and we wait until disasters happen? That is when we start to think of how can we as a country um, think of buying or doing investigation. So, yes, continue, sir.
The one thing that our government has proven over time is that we learn nothing from our past experiences. Every time we are confronted by a disaster, we find ourselves in shock, unable to cope. And then once we get over it, we forget the reports that are done to address how certain measures may be taken to mitigate against such disasters are put on the shelves. They gather dust until the next disaster strikes. It's a good thing you brought up the matter about how Professor George Saitoti and his assistant then, Ora Ojode, passed away. Now, for general public consumption, the report that came out with regard to that crash has been trashed by analysts. They poked holes into how that investigation was done. And so it's easy to conclude that the reason we never learned from that is not enough research was done with regard to that crash. So there is no lesson that was learned. Now, that aside, can we look at what my fellow panelists just said? If a whole chief of defense forces is forced to use a plane that is not modern, then how about junior officers? Now, let's flip that to we have our president crisscrossing the country using military choppers and equipment. So, if the Kenyan military is not able to secure their boss, how safe is our president? How safe is our deputy president? How safe are all those other senior government officials who travel using this equipment? Yes, we know that in not so distant history, there was a plane crash that almost claimed the lives of top government officials. I don't know if you remember, but there is in the year, I think it was 2003, when almost a quarter of Kenya's cabinet was involved in an air crash. And fortunately, most of them survived. Did we learn anything? I can guarantee you we learned nothing, because the same thing that was happening then, which is overusing these old aircrafts is what's happening to date. Kenya's military expenditure is considered a classified item on the national budget.
Yes.
Allocations are done, and nobody can question how the money allocated to the Ministry of Defense for certain items is spent. If you look at the 2024-2025 proposed budget, you will see that the appropriation is greater, almost unprecedented, because before we've had education take the biggest chunk of our budget, but then
Mhm.
in the for the period I have quoted, the allocation to the Ministry of Defense is rivaling that of education. Could this accident have been preparing us to a season where the government is now going to want to spend and not be questioned because there are mouths to be fed? It's some people's time to eat. I think when Kenyans ask questions with regard to the accident that happened, we should allow them and actually open our ears so those responsible can provide us with answers, because a lot is not making sense.
Okay, Makobura, what do you say about it?
You know, anytime we see these accidents, especially aircraft accidents, whenever investigations are being done, there must be a team that is sent from the manufacturer. And after these investigations are made or done, I think the government is given full details of what has happened. But from what we've been seeing, the government has not been giving full information to the people, of which that is, they especially things to do with security. They either decide to give the people or not. That is up to them. But
Mhm.
what are they? What is their? What are they using? Like, are they? Is the government using the information that they've been given? The outcome of the reason why we are having this kind of accidents, when they're given, what are they using the information? Why is it that people are still dying? Accidents are being investigated, and again another accident will happen, they send the team, it will be investigated, meaning the government is putting all these
Mhm.
investigations, they are not using it to help uh, future, to help stop future accidents. This is where the problem is coming. I think any information that has been given, or whenever investigation is done, the information should be used to help secure ourselves and the people who are using this kind of equipment. It is up to the government to ensure that the lives of especially the people who are protecting the people of Kenya are very well taken good care of, because whenever we keep on losing security officers, the country is now being exposed to so many both external and internal security. So it is upon the government to ensure, because they have the capacity, that they allocate enough money that they would then use to buy modern equipments that would then help these members of KDF and even the police to ensure this tight security within the country.
Do you think it is right time right now for especially the parliament, especially the committee of security? They should always have like a documentation showing how the maintenance of the aircraft, especially for the military, for the president, so that they can have on board and we know when last was it maintained and who did it and what was done. That is the high time for us as a country to start doing that, or as a member of parliament, they should start doing that, to have that documentation.
Benson, let me summarize my
Mm,
answer for the question you had just asked,
mm,
and I will put it this way. What we learn from how our government has responded to disasters is that our government learns nothing from those disasters. Let's make peace with that fact. And then look at Parliament. I was on this show some time ago, and we looked at how our Parliament has conducted itself so far. And I gave evidence about how our Parliament has dropped the ball when they should have risen to the occasion and saved the nation. You recall the Finance Act 2023-2024, where they let Kenyans down. So it's foolhardy of us to imagine that if we abrogated to Parliament the responsibility to ensure that military equipment is well serviced and that what needs to be done is done, because we know they won't. That's for a fact. We have a corrupt parliament, an incompetent one that is hell bent on self aggrandizement. So, what we should do actually is to allow for the institutions that have been set to do their work. So far, we know that the Kenya's Defense Forces conducts itself without a lot of interference. Problem has been corruption. Corruption has permeated into every sector and fabric of Kenya. So you'll find that even in the military, where discipline is highly regarded, there are still those few bad apples. And so maybe focus should be on, can we minimize or eliminate corruption so that people do not procure things with the intention to gain, rather to have benefit for the whole nation. So I think we should not involve parliaments in this
Okay.
matter. What
Mhm.
we should do is ensure that whatever allocations are done in our budgets for different sectors go to those sectors, and Kenyans get value for every penny that is spent.
Okay, thank you very much. And I know the investigation by the Kenya Defense Force, it will be classified, so I don't think it will be given to the public for security reason. That is something that I really know. And maybe before we wind out on our military equipment, there's this assignment that was given to the general, especially the inspecting of schools, and these schools were being built by KDF, and majority of Kenyans were asking, why was it that the Ministry of Education was not involved, or the Ministry of Internal Security was not involved to go and inspect the schools? I don't know if you can weigh your thoughts on it.
I had a conversation with the chairman in charge of the defense committee in parliament on Monday after the crash. And on national TV, I remember questioning why he made remarks to the extent that the government has done everything it can to secure the North Rift and those other areas that are bandits prone. Now, if the government indeed has done everything, and we still needed for the Chief of Defense Forces to go supervise the construction of schools, then our government has truly failed, because schools are supposed to be the business of the Ministry of Education. And constructing a classroom or rebuilding a school should not be a task that requires someone in the caliber of a chief of defense forces. So, number one, I hope I'm demonstrating to you why our parliament has failed, because if the chairman in charge of the security docket tells us that the government has done everything when in fact the evidence points to the contrary, then we know we are doomed. It did not require the chief of defense forces to go supervise what junior officers were doing on the ground. Our president told us that once he was sworn in, he would ensure that the security situation in the North Rift and the northern frontier in general is addressed. It has been so long since he took that oath, and still the situation has not changed. So far, it has now claimed its highest prized victim. That's the Chief of Defense Forces. If we are not going to change our approach right now, then I don't know what will make us do that. But again, it's telling that we would have the president announce that the military is going to be involved in building classrooms. And then a few days later, the very top officer goes to undertake that task and perishes in the process. This needs to be investigated, and Kenyans should be told exactly what transpired.
Okay, thank you. Makobura, would you weigh your thought on that?
Yes, I'm not actually an expert in security matters, but from the interaction I had with someone who is in that field, I understood that, of course, there has been insecurity in Baringo area, and the reason why the CDF was going to this place, from from the information I had, is that the KDF has been trying to maintain peace and security in that area. So they have been in charge of so many things, and among the things that they were trying to do in that area was building schools, rehabilitating schools, because that is one of the reasons that uh, would help them maintain peace in those areas. So from the interaction again, I also learned that whenever the KDF are doing or carrying out a project, the project solely lies under their docket, and the CDF is and is responsible of doing all follow up, and also ensuring that whatever the work they were doing is done to the better. So that is the reason why, from what I got, that is the reason why the CDF was inspecting these schools. That it is a role for the CDF to ensure that whatever the KDF are doing are supervised by him. Personally, I also don't understand why a whole CDF would do a supervision of a school that was being built in Baringo, because there are so many junior officers who would have done the same. There are so many people, high ranking members of KDF officers who would also have done the same. I don't understand why a whole CDF would traverse the whole county or that is experiencing high security inspecting schools. It doesn't really make sense because he was not even accompanied by people in the education sector. That also tells you that uh, it is right for the people of Kenya to ask questions, because education and schools lies on the sector of education, Ministry of Education. So it was up to them to follow up and to ensure that the schools were either rehabilitated or not. We don't understand, we the people of Kenya, and we are therefore asking the government to give us enough information so that we don't ask many questions concerning the death of 8 KDF officers.
Uh, do you have something to add?
Well, I would like to just bring you to speed with regard to the fact that we've had a number of hiccups in our airspace lately. If you look like in the past 12 months, this is not the first accident that's happening. This year, I've counted a number that's greater than the fingers on my right hand. Action has not been taken. Whatever investigations have been done, the reports have not been made public. It's time the government took this seriously and addressed our air security matter so we continue to be in the league at which we've been regarded because our skies have been very safe. This time, they claimed the highest prize, the Chief of Defense Forces. If he was not safe, then no Kenyan is safe to be flying in our airspace.
Yeah. That's well understood, and we are just asking the government because like we have so many of our parents, our niece, our mothers, our sisters are in the military who do use those aircraft. So at least this should be modernized. We are going through modernization right now. The technology runs the world, so I think the government should also think through that way and try to modernize some of the aircrafts that we have so that we can be at peace with ourselves, especially when it comes to our military and the police. And gentlemen, let us go and talk about something that is really, really, it has been like almost like 45 days as we speak right now. The battle between the government and the the medics. You know, doctors have been on strike, and this is due to the payment or the salary. And I was so much surprised by two leaders, especially the CS Moses Kuria and governor for Kirinyaga, Anne Waiguru, the way they were talking about the interns. And I can remember the CS was saying like the interns just sat for cuts; they did not do exams. And remember when he was sick, when he had that issue with his feet, the people who were taking care of him were the same people that he's saying did not do exams and did not sit for cuts. So I don't know what kind of leadership do we have if people that we feel are in the leadership who could talk and persuade the doctors to come to work are the people who are saying demeaning words to the interns and the doctors. Maybe your take on the health sector right now that is ailing. We don't have anything like health sector is crumbling down.
Let us start with what you just said, the demeaning words from top government officials. The medics have responded and they started by saying or asking, is it the same leg that doctors saved that is now stepping on them? This is with regard to Moses Kuria's leg, which we know was, were it not for medics, he wouldn't be walking right now. So when he comes out and tries to demean what medical interns do or are, what their value is to society, then again, we see a sign of a country that is waiting for a disaster to strike. The health sector is in crisis right now. You've mentioned that doctors have been on strike for so long, but if you look at things with the right lens, you will realize that it's not actually the doctors that are on strike here. It's the government. Because in 2017, after they held the longest strike, one that lasted for 100 days, the doctors and the government hammered a compromise, and a CBA was born and registered in the High Court. The doctors gave the government 7 years before they took industrial action. So our government has had 7 years to implement that CBA. So when you're talking about who is striking
Mhm.
at this point, it's actually the doctors joining the government in striking because all along it has been the government that has refused to honor the agreement they made with the doctors. And what are the doctors asking? It's not a lot. Yes, there is a list of 19 demands, but when you look at the demands, it's those things that would help our health sector do better. It's things that would make Wanjiko or Atieno or Mura get value out of the taxes that they pay. Doctors commit their lives to humanity. They go to school longer than any other student I know. They spend 6 years in medical school. So it's only fair that even when we are remunerating them, we do not put them on the same platform as other graduates because they've invested a bit more than the other graduates.
Mhm.
But because the government is not keen on resolving these crises, then they are looking for anything they can clutch on. But unfortunately, about the doctors, they are wrong. Over the years, our government has paid these medical interns the money they are asking that it be entrenched as per the CBA, the 206,000 stipend or whatever they choose to call it. The government has been able to pay that. Yes, it's a huge sum of money, but then compared to what these doctors do, my take is we should pay them. In fact, we should look for money and increase whatever that amount is so doctors do not have to be shuttling between our public hospitals and the private clinics like they do. So please, Benson, do not say that our doctors started this strike. It's
I
the government that started this strike, and the doctors just joined them. But unfortunately, the people who are hurt the most are the ordinary citizens who are not able to afford private medical health care.
Makobura, what do you say about the words that were said by the governor for Kirinyaga, Her Excellency Anne Waiguru, and Moses Kuria, the CS? And remember last week, I think the president also said we have to live, we should live within our means. So does it mean that it's only the doctors who can live within their means, bearing in mind that the SR committee for salary remuneration was saying the cast that was just about to be employed are going to have earn something like 780,000, yet we cannot afford the one for our doctors.
Yes, the problem that we've been making, we as Kenyans, is we've been electing people who are not truly leaders. We've been electing people who are deal breakers or deal makers. We've been giving a chance to people who are not really ready to stand and to ensure that they make the lives of Kenyans better. My understanding of the word good leaders. Good leaders are people who possess self-awareness. Good leaders are people who garner credibility. These are people who focus on relationship building, and they also exhibit humility. Good leaders are people who empower others. Good leaders are people who stay authentic. These are people who present themselves as constant and consistent people. They also become role models, and they are people who are always there for others. That is my understanding of who a good leader is. If you look at maybe the parliament that we have today, most of members of parliament we have today are not learned. Majority of them even bought the certificates that they used when they were um, running for these seats. You cannot expect someone who is not learned to respect profession. This is the problem we are having as a country, because the members of parliament we have are people who are not learned. They have no business respecting doctors. Doctors who have been in school for so many years. These are people who have been there trying to get knowledge to save lives. These are people who should be respected. But them, since they are members of parliament, they don't care which means they use to go to parliament. They only care about the amount of money that they are earning. Now that they are now earning millions of money, they look at professions as something that is not even making sense to them. If we had people who are educated in the parliament, they would respect profession. The problem we've been having in this country is the other day teachers were on strike. And if you look at the reason why even these doctors are currently on strike is the government failed them. They had negotiated with the government, and the government had agreed that sometimes the government had agreed to give them whatever they were asking for. When now time has come for the government to give them what they asked for, the government is now not listening to them. The government is now changing the contract that they had entered into. It is wrong. And that also tells you that the government in place, it is the people who are in top leadership, they are not truthful people. Sometimes I hear them call themselves we are truthful men and women. But the truth of the matter is, whenever you get into a contract with a group of people or with the people that has given you the mandate to lead them, you have to respect that contract. And whenever you want to change that contract, you have to get back to the people and tell them the reasons why you want to change the contract.
Yeah.
As a president or as a CS, it is up to the government to ensure that whenever they're making decisions, they consult the people of Kenya. Whenever they're facing any challenge, they have to consult the people of Kenya. It is so unfortunate that they are making decisions without consulting the people of Kenya. And again, they are using words which are not respectful. It is again, whenever we see these senior politicians, whenever they're sick, most of the time they do fly out of the country, meaning they don't even trust the doctors that we have within the country. And the money they use while they're going to seek for treatment outside the country, these are money that they have earned here in Kenya. These are money that has been paid by the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya have paid tax. And so they are misusing the people of Kenya instead of now paying the doctors so that the poor people of Kenya can also get uh, access to good health. They don't care about that. I think it is high time that the people of Kenya should look at the mistake that they did and try to rectify by ensuring that they elect people who understand what leadership is.
My friend, let's from how you've explained that, and now you've talked about the parliament on how, like now, right? Actually, the 13th parliament is considered as one of the worst parliament, especially when it comes to democracy of the parliament, because they are not independent in their decision making. If the members of parliament, if to say they are aware of what the people they represent in parliament are going through in terms of getting a better healthcare, and they are still in parliament, and some of them are not even like feeling the pinch, what kind of leaders do we have, my friend? What kind of leader do we have?
We have dealers. We do not have leaders. We have people who are out there to cut deals to enrich themselves. They rode on the hustler narrative, those who got to make it in government, and hustlers expected that their issues would be top priority. They've proved that they do not care about the common mwananchi. So it is safe for us to conclude that we do not have true leaders in Kenya. We have people chasing after deals, period.
Okay.
It's about time we considered using the clause that allows for Kenyans to recall non performing members of parliament.
Yeah, that clause is there, but like it's too tedious. You cannot by the time you started to initiate that route, by the time you are through, the year is over, they are going for election. So that's, they made it in a way such that we, the people of Kenya, cannot recall them back, because
You
even
know,
Well,
yeah.
it would be tedious, it
Yeah.
would be difficult, maybe improbable, to recall a member of parliament, but the effort would be a statement to all those members of parliament who have not been true to the call of duty. So Kenyans should actually consider using that clause. Yes, we may not succeed to recall a member of parliament, but at least we know even if they survive, we will have an election at the end of it and will not vote for them because the process of recalling is like a motion of impeachment or vote of no confidence. So let's not be afraid to use the tools that our constitution affords us. This parliament has been a letdown, and right now that we are into the period where we can legally recall a member of parliament, we should consider using that clause to our advantage.
Okay.
It's very unfortunate that majority of poor Kenyans are currently dying because they cannot get access to health. And the reason being is the doctors are on strike, and the people who should try fast track this issue or get into negotiation. I think the parliament also has a role. Instead of focusing and trying to follow up on this issue of striking doctors, majority of parliamentarians. The other day we heard of a whole senator trying or telling the people of Kenya that the term limit should be extended. Some of them are saying that the term of the presidency should be extended to 25. And then you ask yourself, 25 years, one person becoming a president for all 25 years, and Kenya has more than 50 million people. Does it mean that presidency is meant for one specific person? That is a question that we should ask ourselves. And again, is it right? Kenya has 47 or more tribes in the Republic of Kenya. Does it mean, or is it right that only one or two or three tribes in the Republic of Kenya are meant to be president of the Republic of Kenya? Whenever or when all Kenyans, whenever they are coming from which direction, whenever they are coming from which tribe, they have a right to be presidents of the Republic of Kenya. The issue of tribalism that is so much into the Republic of Kenya is because the presidents that we've been having or electing, they've been widening the tribalism in that we are seeing in Kenya. Because whenever a president is given a chance, instead of trying to unify the country, instead of trying to ensure that the level of tribalism is either broken or reduced, they're still using their position to only employ people from their ethnic background. This whenever these people are given opportunity, the only work that they do is try to defend the president and tell the people how the president is being good to them. I think this is wrong. Whenever and that is the reason why you're seeing so many members of parliament, especially from the Rift Valley, they are saying that the president should be given more time so that he actualize the, the plans that he had. And then you ask yourself, when he was campaigning, of course, he knew that he was supposed he would go for 5 or more, 10. Of course, you have to plan yourself within that period. What is it that is so special that he wants 25 years? And they are trying to force the people of Kenya with it. The constitution is very clear. When he was when he was applying for this job, of course, he knew the terms. He knew that a maximum would be 10, meaning whatever the plans that he had to do them within that period.
Okay, maybe just to talk about it, because like you brought it, because this is a bill that is being drafted, or it has been drafted by this Nandi senator, Cherargei, and is calling for the term limit to be like 7 years for a president, MCA, and MPs, and maybe vetting of the KDF, CDF to be done in parliament, of the judges, and everything he wants to be in the parliament. And I'm asking myself, where are the priorities at this point in time? what do we need first as a country? Do we need how to see the time limit of the legislature and the executive to be extended, or we should look at the what is ailing us as a country? My friend, what can you say about it?
Our priorities are clearly misplaced if we leave them in the hands of our leaders. You can see from that motion. Now, if someone was visiting Kenya for the first time, they would imagine that we've sorted out the issue about poverty. Our infrastructure is in perfect shape. Our education sector is the best. We basically have no deficit in our budget, and the only issues left are dealing or extending term limits. Clearly, our priorities are misplaced. Good thing is, Cherargei comes from a region where the voters do not hesitate to vote out those leaders who forgot why they were elected. He's been fortunate to be re-elected, but I guarantee you, given the performance of these governments, the voters in Nandi are going to make him realize that he's not the boss, and they are. At least that's one thing I have to give or take my heart out to the people within the Rift Valley. They go for youthful leaders who show some focus. And clearly, Cherargei has lost his focus. He'll meet the electorate in 2027 and he
Yeah,
will answer for what he did with the opportunity
this is
they
the thing.
gave him.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
the way our constitution was written, a lot of factors came into play that determined why we need to give a leader 5 years. If a leader has a vision for the people, believe me, it's possible for them to get that vision started within the first 5 years. And once the people see that he has a plan, when they go for re election, then the voters will reaffirm their belief in the vision of that leader and they will give that leader another term of 5 years. So clearly, we need to leave our constitution as is and focus on delivering to the people using the instruments that already exist because we have way bigger problems that we should be focusing on rather than changing the structure of our governance. Now, so many years since we promulgated our constitution, we still have not even succeeded in devolving all the functions that were supposed to go to the county governments. And now someone wants to tinker with the constitution because they think when they give the man at the top more time, then they will find favors. These should not be allowed to even form part of our conversation. Right now, we're dealing with floods, we are dealing with road accidents, we are dealing with unexplained plane crashes. You look at our education sector, we still do not know where this country is headed. Our health sector is in crisis. And someone wants us to talk about extending William Ruto's term? No, give me a break. Let us reset our course and focus on the things that matter.
Okay. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
I
Oh, you
think
want?
yeah, I
No.
also needed to add something
Mm-hmm.
about that proposal by Cherargei.
Mm-hmm.
When Cherargei, for example, says that maybe the position of the CDF, or let's say, for example, the CDF position, whenever that it's given to someone, it should be taken to the parliament. I think this is not a good proposal because things to do with KDF or defense or security, they shouldn't be political. There shouldn't be political influence when appointing the people to lead in these sectors. Because let's say, for example, if the CDF, for example, is brought before this 13th parliament, of course, Ruto would use, or the president in power would use the opportunity to reward maybe someone who is a loyalist to him. And someone holding this position is a very key person in the running of the Republic of Kenya. And whenever the president has the capability of influencing uh, the workings of the CDF, you can imagine how tough it would be staying here in Kenya. So I think such kind of proposals should not even be. We should not even talk about them. We should not even think in that direction, because if we try make that mistake, then it would be same as going back to where we came from. As a people, we should respect the constitution that we have. Or whenever there's need to relook into it, let us propose things that are making sense. Let us propose things that, even if suppose we are not there, even our children would come and say that whoever came up with this proposal did a good thing. Remember, power is one thing that changes. I might be in power today, tomorrow it might be someone else. If I mistreat people today, someone else would be leading me tomorrow, and maybe they would do the same. So let us do things whenever we are in leadership, things that even if we are not there, the people who would be existing at that time would appreciate and say that the people who made this at least made our life better.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. And we just wanted to look at the last session of this show, and we want to look at yesterday we talked a bit of it, and today I'm also bringing it about the disaster that we are having. How prepared are we, even as the residents of Kenya? Because you are aware today in Makueni, there are Kenyans who are trying to cross the river using a lorry that was carrying a sand. And when they were crossing that bridge, they were swept away. So, how even prepared, what knowledge do we have as the Kenyans ourselves? The awareness of the repercussions that might happen, especially when we have floods. At what point should I cross that river, or at what point should I step my feet on the flood? So that is up to you. Maybe you can weigh your thoughts on it. How prepared are we? Yes.
We are not well prepared as a country. The kind of training that exists out there in the populace is almost non existent. Kenyans basically rely on their, should I call them whims or common sense, because our education system has so far not done a very good job in equipping us with the life skills we need to survive out here. I'm glad there has been some changes in the curriculum, and I hope that these things are taught to those who are going to school right now. But otherwise, a lot of people out there are illiterate when it comes to how to respond in case of these disasters that strike us from time to time. It's regrettable that these floods have claimed so many lives, yet we knew that Kenya would experience floods. The number one person I would like to blame for the chaos and the mess that Kenya finds itself right now is the president, because when experts went to him and said that we were going to have El Nino phenomena, he had a different opinion. And by his sentiments, I think he deprepared those in charge. We did not do what needed to be done in good time. And so when the rains first came in December, they stretched whatever infrastructure we had. We didn't have time to rebuild and prepare for the rains that we are currently experiencing. And that's why they are wreaking havoc all over the place. Our education system needs to focus on equipping the children, because eventually this information will reach others in society on how to behave when confronted with different disasters. Our resources are not enough that they can be deployed when we have a widespread phenomenon like the floods we are currently experiencing in Kenya. So citizens themselves have to take action. For instance, we know that if we cleared the clogs in our drainage systems, we could lessen the effects of these floods. But then most citizens do not know that that responsibility is theirs and not that of the county governments. That when you see something going wrong, it's up to you to report so that action is taken. But we've kind of given up on faith, and what will be, and that's not a good way to run a country. Let us seek out information. Let us use this information. But above all, let us not do that which will put our lives at risk. Let us not get in harm's way when trying to save others. Let us stay safe. These rains are perilous.
Yes,
Do
and
not
and
take unnecessary risk.
okay, and as it stands today, we've lost almost over 75 people. Who these are people who are dead. And another thing also, I realized that where the leaders are, especially like the areas where leaders live, it's very rare to experience these floods, because even if you want to put a high-rise building in those areas, they will go to court and they will come together as leaders and say, we don't want high-rise building here. But like when you come to where the voters are living, this is where they build those flats. They allow those flats to be built in areas whereby the river passes. You know, you cannot change the flow of the river, you know. So that's where also our leadership has really failed us when you come to this other area, because like you, if you interfere with those the path of the rivers, this is what is going to happen, you know. So I think our leaders need to do more. Mr. Makobura, what do you say?
I think in Kenya, there's nothing like public awareness and education programs on disaster preparedness. This is one thing that the government has failed to do, because disaster is something that you cannot really tell whether when it is going to happen and where. So, and of course, it is something that has to happen. You just will never know when and where. So my opinion is that I think the government should invest on sensitization, on public, making the people of Kenya understand, educating them so that they have the knowledge on how and what they should do whenever they experience these calamities. I think there should be, especially the students or pupils who are still in school, there should be a subject that is specifically dealing with how to uh, get prepared whenever disaster happens. And this subject should include, it should be emphasized on public, that it instructs publics on how to prepare for disaster, which are both man-made and natural, because this emphasis would help in developing proactive approach to public health and disaster, as opposed to general reactive approach. So my opinion is the government has a role to protect the people. Protecting the people means giving them good education, and also ensuring that the lives of the people of Kenya are well taken good care of.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Maybe if any of the panelists have some, maybe can we just touch something on the fertilizer, because like the person who from it's not yet confirmed, but from the sources, the company that was given the tender to supply the fertilizer is the lady who was married and divorced the agriculture minister, but it's not yet confirmed. K10, she was a wife to the CS for agricultural in Tori, but it's not yet confirmed. But that company, and they're telling you that company was formed almost like, I don't know, 30 years. So, you know, it is you talked about the country of deals, you know. So that also confirms in Africa you might be separated in court and divorced, but in African custom tradition you are not, you're still married.
Yes, and this is a very vicious cartel we have, and it threatens Kenya's food security. Now, unfortunately, our society has the habit of rewarding mediocrity. You remember the debacle, the spectacle that was Kitani and our CS for agriculture. And those are the despicable things that have been associated with Linturi. Yet, these are the people we have extolled to high office to provide solutions for us. Kenyans, we are not going to get solutions from these people. What is going to continue happening is these people will continue to screw us over and over until we get to that day when we will open our eyes and realize that we are on our own. I think those in government today locked themselves in a room and decided that they are going to outperform Jubilee in misdeeds, poor performance, corruption, and every other vice. So let us allow them to do so. But as we experience the pain of their incompetence, let us not forget that the power to appoint lies in our votes. In 2027, we'll have a chance to decide if we will want to continue suffering or we want to start over, to build a new thing that works for us. Please let the pain we are going through be a lesson and let us act when called upon in future elections.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we wind up, let me just, Makubura, I'm going to give you a chance and say your last word as we wind up. Let me say hi to the following. Good day. Thank you for watching. Judith, Oteng, Brenda, June. Thank you so much for staying with us. And somebody is saying hi to our panelists. That is good day. Maybe Makobura, you can say your last remarks as our friend is going to also say his last remark to our viewers and to our fellow Kenyans.
The reason why we're having many problems in Kenya, the reason why there's high level of corruption, the reason why fake fertilizers are finding their way in Kenya is because the people in power, instead of appointing people who are professional, instead of giving people with knowledge, instead of ensuring that they even respect profession, they have been rewarding their girlfriends, they have been rewarding their boyfriends, they have been rewarding their relatives. And these relatives or boyfriend, they feel that they are close to power now. They have a leverage, or they have like they don't care. They feel protected now because the people in high position are their relative or friends or girlfriends or whichever. They're now using this opportunity to loot. They are looting, they're seriously looting, and the people of Kenya, especially the poor people, are suffering. The people of Kenya should wake up. Next time when we are making when we are electing leaders, let us focus on their character. Let us focus on what they can deliver. Let us focus on the individualism in them. Let us look keenly and ensure that we elect people who are going to change our life. And it is, I also want to say this to the government and the people in power. They might be in power today, they might loot today, but things to do with whenever you loot, that is something that will never help you in any way. You might be rich today, but again, even if we try follow the people who looted in the government of Moi, most of them, they are the poorest people in Kenya today. So it is upon them. Whenever you take from the poor, of course, it shall come back to you. It is up to them to ensure that they do and respect and follow the constitution.
Okay, thank you so much.
I have a message for our elected leaders, and that is Kenyans are keeping scores. If you're elected as an MCA, as a member of parliament, as a woman representative, as a senator, as a governor, a time will come when you will have to face the electorate again. Right now, they are suffering, be it the high cost of living, be it the floods, be it the shame you're exposing this nation to, be it the sense of lack of direction that this country is facing. You will have to answer. And dear Kenyans, please know that these lessons should count for something. Let us not waste the pain that this administration is putting us through. Let us learn, let us strive to do better. Let us know that we have the power to move Kenya forward. We have the power to make Kenya great. Other nations have risen from mediocrity and made it big. We too, given the vastness of the resources that God put in Kenya, can be a great nation. Let us believe in ourselves, kick out mediocrity, and indeed, we will reward future generations with a country they can be proud of. Power to you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming into the show and discussing issues about our country. And we are building this country through here. We are not here to castigate anybody, or we are not here to demean everybody, but we are here to tell the majority of Kenyans where we want our country to be, because right now where we are, I don't think we are in a good shape as a country, based from floods to accidents to the doctors' strike. So the country right now is sinking slowly. So it is upon our responsibility as good citizens of the country to talk about these issues. And again, for those who will be voting, this is also another time for you to evaluate those you put in power. So next time when you're voting, just please try to vote wisely, so that you should not repeat the same mistake. Thank you so much, and we will have another show tomorrow with a Kenyan leader too, to discuss the same issue. Thank you so much, and may God bless you.
God bless you too, brother.